I'll be watching that between now and then. I have not seen 3 or 4 yet. 4 will be the week after. So I have wonderful films in my future of Jaws 3 and 4, I'm told. So yes, the water skiing sequence is a definite highlight. The divers at the start who are investigating the wreckage of the Orca, wasn't a big fan of their death. It was fine.
Well, it's not filmed in a very interesting way. It's a little strange because, like I said, this is one of the places that you can tell that they filmed in different waters because it's so much clearer and you can see so much more than you could see in the first film, which was mostly supposed to be set at night when that first attack takes place. And here, of course, it's daytime and you can see under the water. We don't really see, except from a point of view of the shark, what happens to the divers, and maybe that's a good thing that we're not seeing their dismembered limbs on the ground afterwards. We just see the camera going off and taking a couple of random pictures.
Not how cameras work.
Yes, not exactly.
We didn't have burst mode back in the 70s.
Well, maybe the underwater cameras did. I don't know. I'm not an expert on photography.
But they didn't need, when they get to the film developing sequence, they only really develop one photo. And, there's a couple, I think, but there's only one that Brody uses. So I'm pretty sure that's the first one the diver takes. It says the shark is coming upon him. He takes a picture, and that's the one that Brody uses.
There you go.
We don't need the camera to keep going up. But yeah, I didn't enjoy just sitting here watching a photograph develop. That's kind of a paint drying sequence to me. It's a nice time capsule of, hey, look at what we had to do back in the past to look at photos. Something yes. I do remember. I was old enough to. I am young enough, old enough to know of developing film.
Take your film to the local drugstore and get it developed.
Indeed, yes. I didn't have many reels done, but I feel that this film should be shown to youths of the day, to show them this is, cast your mind back, imagine the dark times of film development.
Well, people still do that.
Yes, hobbyists.
But not, most of us have very little familiarity with it because we have technology on our side. I'm not sure that, if we were making this film again today, you'd have the burst mode on the iPhone that also is ruined as soon as it hits the water because you'd have to put it in rice for a week to dry it out so you could see the pictures. That's what we'd be seeing. We'd be seeing rice dry instead of paint dry.
Yes. So other deaths that we kind of... I'm kind of doing this podcast has made me discover just how morbid my film tastes are. I always focus on the deaths happening in these films. I don't know what it is, but it's what I like to talk about. Another death I particularly enjoyed is once the climax starts getting into gear and the kids are out, one of the boats kind of stays behind. It's got the Miss Amity on it, Tina, who wasn't a fan of Brody giving a little wolf whistle when she's going up to cut the ribbon at that sequence, but fine, it was the 70s, I get it. But different time. So she's there with her boyfriend, Eddie, or Teddy, I think one of the two.
Eddie, yeah.
Eddie, and a shark comes up, knocks him overboard, and knocks the boat really far away from him. So he has to swim back, but the shark gets him, rides around for a little bit, and then rams him into the boat, which I thought was just great. I'm not sure if the shark killed him or just him being run into the side of this boat.
Face first into the side of the boat.
It was a very memorable, it's a fantastic scene.
Well, it reminds me a little bit of the sequence at the beginning of the first film where Chrissy, hits the buoy and grabs onto it.
Yes.
Only in this particular case, Eddie doesn't really get it as a relief. He gets it as the end point of his visit with Bruce, I guess.
Yeah, he's practically concussed. But yeah, it's a nice. It's not just a shark. It gets you and eats you. Bye bye. Adds a bit more to it because when at the proper climax, when a few of the kids, I think only one actually at that big, when the boats are all rammed together and the shark is attacking the kids there, I think only the girl whose name I never caught, who is looking after Sean,
right,
the younger child, when she gets eaten, the shark just appears and just takes her down. There is no blood, no screaming, no body parts left floating around. she's just gone.
Well, here's what's really weird is they cut out the scenes where she actually lives.
Huh. Well, that would explain the lack of body parts floating around.
And by the way, so does the helicopter pilot.
Oh, I forgot about him. What? How? His helicopter
the
got
helicopter
flipped.
pilot is in a bubble in the sunken helicopter so he can breathe, and he goes out and gets the girl and brings her back into the bubble with him.
Okay.
But they cut all that out.
Fair enough. It's already. It's just shy of 2 hours. I feel like we don't need that stuff added in. There's already too many characters in this film.
Yes, there are. Well, when you got a dozen kids or more out on boats and you can't keep track of how many boats there are, you just feel a little bit like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here.
There's like a dozen kids, and not all of them get names. Not all of them get very few of them get a character. One of them's like, there's the mayor's son, and then there's this cousin from a far off land who all of the boys fancy, despite her looking the same as every other girl who's ever been near them.
Yes.
They're all just kind of identical. And yeah, that's about. There's like two of them wear glasses, so they must be nerds. And that's about. And there's like Mike's best friend, who is like a really good guy. I didn't catch his name because there's just too many of these kids. But the guy who once Mike gets knocked out and taken away, which was an odd decision, I thought. His friend is the one who's looking out for Sean. So I liked that guy. He was really getting angry at Sean when he wasn't catching the rope. But hey, it worked. So I was very, very glad that Mayor Vaughn was still in the film. He's always been a highlight. Murray Hamilton. He's fantastic in that first one. Real boo-hiss, but kind of understandable villain. And I'm glad that he's still the mayor second time around. I just was a little disappointed he didn't believe Brody early on, but I do know that with the scene where they fire Brody, I was aware of the deleted scene there where when they take a vote that we don't see, he's the one who votes to keep Brody.
Right.
And everyone else votes against it. So
I think that would have been a good character part for him.
Yes.
But they decided they didn't need to develop his character or give it any more attention because there's a shark out there and we don't have to worry about what's going on land.
And after that scene, we don't see him again.
Again.
That's it. He's done.
That's it.
But there's like another guy who is like his deputy or his friend or just involved on the council as well. Who's this guy? He's like a real
the real estate
prominent
guy.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't like. I feel like everything he did should have been what the mayor was doing. We didn't need this guy as well.
Well, I got to tell you, I read the novelization of the book when it came out. This was based on the screenplay. They created a novelization, and it was kind of strange because that character is basically in the book a mobster, and he's kind of got his fingers in all the political pies going on there, so he gets to call a bunch of shots. And then there's this whole subplot about how they're financing the hotel development that he and Ellen Brody are involved in. And like the original book, it goes off into paths that have nothing to do with the shark and everything to do with what the local politics are. And it doesn't really mean anything. Nobody cares about that. So they wisely left all of that out of the movie. And it's not clear to me how the book evolved, whether it evolved from that first script. That's kind of what I suspect, that first script that Hancock was working with probably had those elements in it. And when they changed directors and they brought in Carl Gottlieb to rewrite the script, they probably made dramatic changes. But the book was already in galley form and getting ready to be published, so they couldn't go back and redo that whole thing, so they probably just kept that story from the original script.
Okay.
That might explain why he's there.
Yes, as much as I'd like to see the film Mafia Jaws, which, Jaws Part 5 coming soon, but I feel like that was a good decision to cut it from this story. But I could have done with them cutting a bit more of him, because the only scene of him that I really, really enjoyed was when they're on the beach and Brody's up in his tower, and the mayor's son, Larry Jr., is out in his boat, and he waves to the mayor, and the mayor's like, "Oh, wave at my son," and then the guy just stood waving for like 2 solid minutes. The mayor stopped waving a long time ago, but this guy Peterson is just still waving, and I very much enjoyed that. Good. I think that's pretty much all the deaths, other than the helicopter, which disappointed didn't explode. Although it did mean that we got to have you as a guest rather than Will Slater as an exploding helicopter, because that would have been a requirement otherwise. I've yet to find another Deep Blue Sea adjacent film with an exploding helicopter in it, so we've got to find one before Will can come back. That's the rule. But yeah, so the helicopter sequence, I had completely forgotten that, and I watched this film, a few days ago, and then again this morning. I just forgot there's a helicopter in it. Because the helicopter arrives, then the shark bites it, drags it underwater, and it's gone. So it just
like that.
It's gone.
The shark eats the helicopter.
Yes. Which, hey, at the end of this podcast will be a comparison of how this film was like Deep Blue Sea. Shark eats a helicopter. Happens in both.
Check that one.
Yep. That's on your bingo cards.
A like and dislike.
As I understand it, in one of the sequels, I think the tagline for Jaws 4 is like, "This time it's personal."
Yes.
Something along those lines. So when the orca is washed up on the beach, and Brody's there with the zoologist lady, and she's saying like, he hears like sharks could communicate through sonar, and it's possible when the first shark was killed, did it send out a message to attract another one? I love that theory. I'm all day for that theory. But when she says that sharks don't take things personally, I was like, well, what about the other films in this goddamn franchise?
What about the revenge? They don't take things personally. And of course, she hasn't seen Orca, the killer whale.
Neither have I yet. That's a future episode.
Where they take it very personally. But this is, again, one of those things that's kind of weird from having read the book, only because it was serialized in the newspaper. I had no interest in reading the book, but what happened was they put the first chapter of the book into several newspapers. In Southern California, I'm reading the Los Angeles Times. It's in the calendar section, which is the entertainment section, the whole first chapter. And in that first chapter, they tell part of the story from the perspective of the shark. She's a female shark. She'd mated with the other shark.
It's Jaws' wife.
That's really it.
It's Mrs. Jaws. Oh, fantastic.
And the female of the species is always larger, of course.
Of course.
Because she's carrying little sharks.
Is Jaws 3 like son of Jaws?
I don't know.
Oh, dear. That's incredible. That should have been kept in here. Somehow they do a DNA test on it. It's like, oh my god, it's the same DNA as we found in such and such.
Which makes no sense because there's like a 5-year interval between the two films.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Mike has gotten to be,
there was a 4-year gap for every character and a 10-year gap for Mike.
Yes, they are.
I mentioned the sealing the cyanide in the bullets with the wax earlier. I really thought that was going to lead to something. Literally anything. Because of how much detail is taken on it. But the only thing it leads to is when Brody's up his shark tower after no one listens to him about being a shark, he sees what he thinks is a shark, shoots at it, turns out to be a school of fish. That's it.
Yes, and the cyanide probably isn't going to do any damage to a school of fish that far out in the ocean.
No.
So it's not like they're going to start floating on the top of the water because they encountered cyanide.
Absolutely not. So I just... It was an odd scene to leave in. You could absolutely remove putting the cyanide in the bullets, and the film would not change at all.
No, but it's a character thing. Brody is paranoid. He knows how difficult it would be to deal with this. He's got to get whatever edge he can. This is one of the things he thinks of, so he's taken that shot. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I agree.
I didn't have a problem with it, and like you said, it was interesting to watch.
Yes, yeah. I just going from a story perspective, it was like, oh, this is 2 minutes we didn't necessarily need, but I liked the shot. And I've got to say, on the subject of Roy Scheider, he is fantastic in this. I completely bought that he's got this almost PTSD from the previous shark. He's a real desperate man. He goes to some real. He gets fired